Welcome to the Grit Daily Startup. I'm your host, Sebastian Rusk, and this is a podcast about what goes on behind the scenes at startups. The good, the bad, and the gritty. Let's dive in. Bryan Cassady, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir. Good to hear.
It's great to have you here. So on this podcast, we like to talk about the good, the bad, and the gritty of the startup world, but we also like to get to know our guest a little bit too and how they got to really present day of where you're at right now and what you're actually doing. So let's kick things off by helping our listeners better understand a little bit about you.
Okay, cool. I'm an American who's lived all over the world. I've done 10 startups in 6 different countries. I sold 8. And a while ago, I took a detour to coach and teach. And when I took the detour, I came up to a challenge, which is the people I was coaching and teaching weren't as successful as I was, not because I was smarter, not because I worked harder, but there's a number of myths that were blocking them. And what I've done over the last few years is I've been writing a book, trying to help people get over those myths and trying to understand that, in fact, entrepreneurship, if I like your thing, it's about the grit. It's about a daily grind. It's about doing things consistently over time. And got a great book, got a great course. And I'd love to talk to you about it today.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk about it too. So help me understand the transition from being successful at creating startups and obviously selling them, as you mentioned here. What was the motivation behind? Was it you didn't want to do another startup and you felt that you could make more impact by coaching and going slightly different direction? How did that start to unfold?
No, actually, I always wanted to do a PhD. I thought, you know what? I work really hard. I'm going to take some time off and I'm going to do a PhD and learn something really well. And what happened is when I was doing my PhD, they gave me a course to teach. And I loved it. It's really, really fun. And, what I notice right now is, you have the pleasure of managing and coaching, a team that you're working with. But if you can have 100 students or 200 students, you can make a big dent in their lives. And so what happened is I started enjoying the teaching and just continued doing it more and more. And what I've been doing now is running accelerators. I'm teaching a couple leading business schools, EdHEC, which is a top school in Europe, entrepreneurship school in Europe, the European Innovation Academy, the Founders Institute. And really, it's just a belief that, a lot of people want to pay something back. I've made enough money. I don't need to make more money right now, but I like to help other people make money and get their dreams out.
It sounds like a logical reasoning for wanting to do exactly what you're doing. More impact, more reach, more people. So let's talk about the book for a minute here. How does that play into what you've been doing with the work that you're currently focused on?
So, what happened is I wanted a book that I could use for my courses, and I didn't find the book. And then I had what I thought was a really clever idea at the time. I said, look, I'll write out the outline for a book, and I'll go get a bunch of co-authors to work in the book with me. And it turns out I had about 250 applicants to write chapters in the book. I chose 30 of them and started working on the book together. And the idea being is having different co-authors. They can all bring their own unique stories and experience that I didn't personally have. That was a good idea at the start. It turned out to be a hell of a lot harder than actually just sitting down and writing a book on my own. So what we have right now is we brought together 22 innovation experts in one book into one methodology, and we worked on it for about 3 years, and now it's done.
I love it. And when did the book come out?
The book came out first week in December.
Fantastic. And have you had a lot of excitement around it? I know that when a book drops, there's always kind of an initial excitement on here, but as an author, as a fellow author, it's always interesting to see how you continue to create interest around the book and really work it into the work that you provide that you're currently doing.
I mean, to be honest with you, it came out with a bit of a bang. A lot of people contributed to the book. And a lot of those people read the book and gave very positive feedback. I even made it to the bestseller list in France and Germany for a bit of time. But, it's an ongoing push. And I don't think people read books as much anymore as they used to. And one of the things we've been doing is taking the content that we have in the book and putting up in video and courses and things like that. So we have a reference, but we're also bringing it out in different ways. And one of the ways that we're trying to bring it out is we've put together a program to teach the content of the book. And basically what we're doing is doing a train the trainer model. Sorry about the clicks there. I'll have to turn that off. Basically a train the trainer model. And trying to figure out a way that we can bring that out to as many people as possible. And, what we're doing right now is running courses with professors, coaches, trainers all over the world. So yes, there's a lot of initial excitement. Got some really good reviews, gotten some best books of the year awards already. But there's some downsides. I can't even get my mom to read my book. So maybe it's not as good as I hope. Hold on. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn off something here because I noticed there was a click coming in.
Oh, so I didn't hear it. I think we're good. I didn't hear it.
Okay, cool. So I
all good. No, I just didn't want you to think that it was something that was affected here, but
do you know a sad story? Do you know what the average sales of a business book is in its lifetime?
I do not.
So the average sales of a book is around 2,000 to 3,000 copies.
Wow.
If I figure I work 3 years on this, that's 1,000 days. So basically I'm selling 2 books per year in my life. So, I'm hoping we do much better than that. We got a target this year of 50,000 books to sell, and we'll see if we make it there.
Well, I think you're totally going to hit that goal. I mean, it's a first step in that process is setting the goal, right?
Yeah, we'll see if we get there. So, one of the things that is, we got lots of co-authors and their mothers and sisters and brothers and family and clients are all buying the book as well. So, the challenge that comes up is basically getting it out. That's why I'm up on things like your podcast here saying, look, we got some interesting content. Maybe it can help you. One of the things that we are doing is we're giving away a lot of the content for free. And it means that people can check it out, see what's there, and see if it works for them before they actually buy the book. And if you don't buy the book, it's not a big deal as long as you use the content. That's good for me.
Right. Exactly. As long as you can utilize, it can be a utility for you and teach you something that you may or may not know prior to that. So I read that you set a pretty hefty goal that you want to coach and train 1 million entrepreneurs by the year 2027. Tell me about that.
So I have a personal coach, and I was meeting with him last December, just before I moved to Angola. And he said, what are you going to do in Angola? And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to have a lot of time. He said, Bryan, you got to give yourself a big goal. And we started playing with different goals. And I said, look, what can you do? I said, well, actually, I'm not going to teach as many students as before, but what I can do is teach other people to teach. So basically, I have a goal, which is to train 1 million entrepreneurs by 2027. And the intermediate goal is to get 2,000 coaches, professors, trainers using the material, and each of them doing 500 students each. And then I get to my 1 million.
So the ripple effect is coming into play at some point with all of that.
That is definitely the hope. Definitely the hope.
Excellent. So what are you currently working on right now? It's the beginning of 2022 that we're recording this episode. What's been your primary focus for 2022 so far?
Oh my God, I'm learning how to use social media.
It's unavoidable.
It's really, you start looking at, you get sort of addicted to your phone, you see who's reacting to your posts and things like that. So that's one of the things I'm doing. I'm actually getting ready for a program in New Delhi. We've got a program where we're teaching kids in the slums how to be entrepreneurs. Got another one coming up in Mozambique, which I'm excited about. Because Mozambique is a beautiful place to go, and another one in Zimbabwe. And those are the next 3 months for me.
That sounds like a pretty exciting next 3 months. That's for sure. So we've talked about all the great things that have been happening, and congrats on all the success you've had. And of course, on the book and the work that you're currently doing to create that ripple effect to get to that number in 2027. But this entire process of the startup world and of business and transitioning into what is next, there's always a little bit of gritty, if you will, pun intended, there's a gritty part of that process, an ugly part of that process, a challenging part of that process. What have been some of the challenges that you've experienced that you've been able to leverage and help grow not only yourself, but your business because of them?
I think, I guess the way I'd play it back to you is I think what happens is I've been quite successful building companies. But you know what? None of the companies were the company I started. In fact, what happens, they always change and adapt and morph into something else. And, I think, the grit part that's out there is just realizing, what, you're going to change 10 times before you get to the place you have to go. And what you see is so many people, they think they've got the most brilliant idea in the world, and they're not willing to modify or adapt it. And then they get stuck and then wonder why it doesn't work. So what I think, the idea of grit, the idea that you stick it out, you grind it out, and you get a little bit better every day, that's the key to success. It's not big ideas. It's not about creativity. It's about hard work, daily work, and doing the right stuff consistently.
Right. And when you say right stuff, is that stuff that you're aligned with, work that really matters, that provides value? Is that what you would refer to as, the right stuff?
I think, a lot of depends. If you're talking about grit for yourself, you're talking about grit for your company. I think if you want to make a company that's successful, you have to be aligned with something that provides value to somebody, that something's willing to pay for, and something that you're able to do. Because if you miss any one of those, your business is going to fall down. If you're looking at a personal level, you got to do something that gets you excited to get up in the morning. One of the things that happened to get this book done over the last year is, COVID. That was a horrible thing. But what it did allow me to do is I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, every morning, to write a book. And it's honestly, it didn't come easy the first day. It didn't come easy the second day. It was about a month in before the words started to flow. And if I, waited it until the end and tried to write it at the end, it would have never happened. So the thing that comes out, and I like the word grit so much because that's actually what separates the winners from the losers. The winners have grit. The losers say, it didn't work. I'll try something else. The winners say, look, it didn't work. I'll try again, but I'll try different.
Right. It's always on to the next one when it's not working out, instead of figuring out what actually went wrong and course correcting that process, because the answer may very well be there and oftentimes is.
Yeah. If I look, my personal experience, the first big business I started a company that was doing promotions, coupons in the mail and that kind of stuff. And I was really excited about where things were going. And I had a bunch of blue chip clients. And, part of my excitement, I decided to contact all the retailers in my home country at that time, which was Belgium. And one of the retailers didn't like the fact that I contacted his local store. So he called up all my clients and told them, if you ever buy something from Mr. Cassady again, your orange juice will be found in the cat food section. So I went from having lots of great clients to no clients pretty quick. And, that's the type of stuff that happens to you, and you got to figure out, what is the way back from that? How do you come back? How do you change? How do you adapt? And, that's the life of an entrepreneur. That's the life of somebody who wants to make a business happen. And it probably helped that I mortgaged my house and everything like that at that point in time. So I had no choice but to succeed.
Yeah. You set yourself up to succeed by burning the ships, if you will.
Yeah, burning everything behind you. There was no way back at that point in time.
Right. And, that happens, but that really is the entrepreneur's journey of being able to navigate through that process and through those challenges of these, oh my goodness, what in the world is happening? And of course, something you can never really plan for. Of course you never could have expected something like that was going to happen, yet you found yourself in a position that you had to, figure it out and make do with what you were working with.
Yeah, no, there's a great expression in Japanese. It's down 6, up 7. So if they knock you down six times and you get up 7, you still win the fight. And I think it's the same way for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it really is. Even on a daily basis, that's some discipline. 6 a.m. Getting out of bed to write every day. As a fellow author, I know that most days I would wake up and I would rather eat my pillow than write another page in my book. But I would also tell myself, this book is never going to get done if you don't actually write it. So, did you find days where you're like, I can't write today? Or was it, I'm just going to stay disciplined to this and get the thing done?
You mean, if I'm honest, probably one day out of 4, I couldn't write. But what I made a commitment to myself is to continue writing until something came out. And basically I'd write, I can't write today until I got sick of writing that. And then something would come. And, the thing is, it's just the grind. And, it helped. I had a great son who pushed me a lot through it. And he'd come up and check with me in the morning and see, how's it going? So he was my biggest supporter and probably my harshest critic along the way. And sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need people to push you a little bit.
Oh, I think all the time.
And, the thing is, you never know what's going to come out at the end. I mean, one of the things you can do is you can only make your best effort. And when you make your best effort, then you can be proud of where you are. And right now, I'm proud of where we are with what we've written. I'm proud that it's making an impact on people around the world. We've taught people in about 25 countries right now, and let's see where it goes. My biggest success, if I measure it these days, is when somebody sends me a wedding invitation or something like that a couple of years later and say, look, I got to have a great band at the wedding because of the money I made using the things you taught me in your course, or something like that. So that's my psychic income today.
Well, that's what you got to focus on. You got to focus on the wins, because I believe the wins really propel us and give us momentum to keep things rocking and rolling. Well, it's been so fun to learn about you, get to know you a little bit better on the episode and the interview here. And I just wanted to encourage you to keep up the great work. I firmly believe that you're going to hit that goal of training and coaching 1 million entrepreneurs by 2027. You put it out there, you're putting the work in, the book's out, and you're actually doing the work that's going to contribute to that goal becoming a reality. So I'm rooting for you.
Yeah. So you did say before I could try to put a pitch in. So I've got a site which is called the www.thecyclesbook.com. And what you can do is you can find all the parts of the book, all the tools and methods up there. You can download everything for free. See if it works for you. If it does, great. Where I think it fits in well in all the things that we're doing these days is, a lot of people talk about build, measure, learn, but nobody teaches you how to build. Nobody teaches you how to measure. Nobody teaches you how to learn. And I think the co-authors of the book, perhaps more than I did a really good job of putting those ideas out there so it's actionable for anybody.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad you mentioned it. You can also check out the book too at thecyclesbook.com. All of these links are going to be in the description of this podcast episode, so you'll be able to click and take advantage of these free resources. Get yourself a copy of the book too, and stay connected with everything Bryan's got going on with his startup and adventure of getting to 1 million entrepreneurs that he's trained and coached by the year 2027. Well, thanks so much for your time, Bryan. And I wish you nothing but the best here, and you'll have to come back to the show sometime.
I really appreciate the time today, and I wish you a very gritty day.
Very gritty. That's a first time. I've never been wished a gritty day, but you can either embrace the grit or it's going to show up anyway. Thanks again, Bryan.
My friend.
You too, buddy.
I wish you well. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Until next time, friends. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Grit Daily Startup. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get updates as new episodes become available. This podcast is brought to you by gritdaily.com, the premier startup news hub. More information at gritdaily.com. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian Rusk. Until next time, friends.